Hello everyone, and if you're watching this on the day it was uploaded, Merry 626! I'm sitting here in my Lilo and Stitch denim jacket with the 626 patch just for the occasion, and I am reviewing Paper Flowers by Andie Barr, an adorable gay romance. Now, when I was first sent this, I was a little bit iffy. I explained to the author, who is a woman, that romances written by women are very iffy for me because there is always such a very high risk of being fetishized. You know how a lot of straight men tend to fetishize queer women and their relationships? Well, the reverse also happens a lot in romance novels. So I asked originally, can I get like a sample chapter of some of like the lovey scenes to double check? And she said, sure, send it to me. She explained that she sent it to a lot of queer beta readers to double check and other queer men, basically to make sure that this was realistic, and they all gave the thumbs up, and I read the sample chapter and I knew immediately that I was going to be super excited for this book. Now, I started this book on the 24th of June. As I record this, it is the 25th. I finished this book in less than 2 days because I was that into it. So let's get into the finer details. This revolves around Jake and Max, two men that happen to meet when Jake does the flowers for Max's sister's wedding, and immediately there is some attraction. However, there are also some hurdles to get through. Max is from a very wealthy family, Jake is from a very not wealthy family, and while that doesn't immediately propose any problems, Jake feels very unworthy of Max's love. Also because there are some skeletons in his closet. And I will say I appreciated that the skeletons in his closet were like legit skeletons. A lot of cases in these kind of romance novels, you tend to have paper skeletons where it's not that big of a deal when this secret comes out, but for Jake it most certainly is. And so I was genuinely interested to see, okay, what's going to happen when word of what he did / what happened comes out, and that had me constantly moving through. This is a very long book compared to most romances. Most romances in general tend to be at most like 350 words, maybe closer to 400 if they're a mass market paperback. This one topped like 480, which is really long for a romance, especially for a debut romance. However, it is very slow paced and methodical in its telling of the story. There are a lot of low-key moments that are really just there for character building. As a result of his past, Jake has a lot of things to overcome. Max has a struggle with empathy, so it's really hard for him to be like, okay, how would someone else feel about this situation? Could someone else be mad or upset by this even if I'm not, which is the big hurdle on his side. And I love how so much of it just revolves around them struggling to overcome their own flaws or tragic pasts or just stupid moments. I love that their being gay wasn't the big conflict, or them being in a same-sex romance, rather. Jake is canonically bi, like it is in the words on the page, canonically bisexual. However, he, at the beginning of the story, has not come out to his father. Max came out to his parents and was more or less kicked out, and really relies mostly on his 4 siblings for support. However, that wasn't the main focus of the story. It wasn't that, the being gay wasn't the conflict. It was a side story. It was something they had to get past and move beyond. It wasn't the entire focal point, which I really love, because I feel with these kinds of LGBT stories that can kind of end up being the entirety of the thing, but it wasn't. I especially loved the siblings and the friends on both sides. They were very supportive. Even Jake, despite having, the obligatory dead mom that so many romance book protagonists have, he still had siblings and friends in a support group, and Max had siblings and friends in a support group, so that it didn't feel like anyone was basically inserting themselves into someone else's life. It felt more like two worlds coming together, and they were both interested in connecting with the friends and family on either side. Now, one of my favorite moments is this meta commentary on gay romance and publishing. So this book is set in the year 2014, which is admittedly strange. You don't see many books that are like, we're going to be definitely in this year. And like I said, this is her debut. So it's not like a reference to any other books she's written, or at least written and published. But it talks about how the one character, Max, is secretly a romance author under a pen name, but despite being gay, he's never published a gay romance. All of his romances have been hetero, and other characters comment on it like, hey, wouldn't you want to publish a gay romance? And he talks about how basically he was told they wouldn't sell, they wouldn't work, he doesn't really have an option. And I loved that kind of meta, what is traditional publishing actually looking for? And they even bring up independent publishing within it. And I loved that. Like, that was so cute. And the story he eventually publishes is one I want to read. Now, the one aspect that I struggled with, if I struggled with anything, was the fact that so many of their own problems was communication and their own struggle of communication. Also a little bit of slut shaming on Max's part. But that, I guess, was the point of it, so I can't get too mad. And I liked that that was the point of it, where it wasn't like oh, here's a shallow conflict that really is only there to bring the people together, or is really only there to, you know, force the man to save the woman in so many hetero romances. It was the communication, it was the meeting the families, it was the overcoming their own personal issues. And speaking of overcoming their own personal issues, and I love this, I mentioned before that Jake had a very abusive childhood, and I'm not going to get too into it because a lot of it is revealed after 100 pages in, and as we know, if it's revealed after 100 pages in, I try not to spoil it. However, he genuinely understands, or comes to understand at one point, that he actually needs to deal with that stuff and that horrible upbringing, and so he starts going to therapy. And I loved that, because in so many books like this, or in so many romance books, it's basically like, oh, this person had a horrible, awful, abusive, addictive, whatever childhood, but this person will save them and make it all better. And it's very honest and brutal in the fact that, no, Jake's gotta take care of this on his own. Max can't save him, can't fix him. The ending was particularly sweet. And the reason this book is so applicable for 626 is that because it begins, they first meet in the year 2014. However, the entirety of the book takes about 2 years, and at the end, they're at 2016. I'm not going to tell you exactly why that's important for the end of this book, because I don't want to spoil it, but 626, 2016, you can probably put it together, and it is absolutely adorable. I genuinely loved this book. I don't usually use the phrase couldn't put it down in reviews, mostly because I feel like that's really overused, and for me, you need to mean it literally for me to take it seriously. It genuinely needs to be a case of, I was at dinner with friends but also going through the book on my phone, or like today, I came home for my break from work, literally picked up the book, was reading it, and did not stop reading it until I had to go back to work. Like, that was how much I loved reading this. Because again, 480 pages, and I read it in 2 days, and it didn't feel like a chore. Because there have been books that I've read that were very long that I read in 2 days, and I felt like I was reading that much. Not in the case of this one. It reads very quickly. It is a nice, fluffy at parts contemporary romance. I particularly love the siblings. On Max's side, he is the youngest of 5, and they all have outrageously long names. Augustus and Julius, and all names after Roman emperors. Even the sister Lucy, her full name is actually Lucilla. And the interplay between them and how fiercely they support Max, going so far as to maybe manipulating things and plotting and scheming when he and Jake are being stupid towards each other again. And if I had to guess, because this is the first in a series, my guess would be that future books in the series would be the other brothers finding their relationships. Now, this sister is married, obviously it was the entire point that brought them together. However, there's no real significant other of either gender or any gender mentioned for the other three brothers. So my guess would be for the series moving forward that you're going to see the other brothers finding their finding their loves. I'm going to be particularly interested in Augustus, the eldest sibling. You find out some things about him over the course of the story that really made me want to know more about him in his head and see who he would end up with. And I'm not going to get too much more into that because, again, spoiler, this book is very long and I don't want to ruin anything for you going into it, even though I might have spoiled myself from the sample chapter. I'm really hoping that it doesn't revert things. I'm really hoping that it doesn't be like, JK, there's new relationship problems between Max and Jake now, because this book was so long and looks at everything so in depth that I feel like anything else brought up post this as a new communication issue would bring up the issue of, okay, did they really solve anything in that 480 pages of the first book? So no, I'm really hoping that it is the rest of the family kind of finding their own personal people. Although, I mean, I would love to see if one of them ended up in a polyamorous relationship. I wouldn't be mad. I haven't read that before. But in general, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. 5 stars, very adorable. The only thing that would have made this book any better is if it was own voices, which unfortunately was not. Actually, you know what? Give me a second. And I'm back. Sorry, I just had to check on a thing because I realized I didn't know whether or not it was safe to reveal this about Andie Barr. But while she is not a queer man, she is queer. She originally told me in an email, and then I realized, crap, I don't know if she's out, and I'm not going to be that jerk outing an author just to say that their book was Own Voices. So she is part of the LGBT community. She talked about it in her YouTube videos, and I will post the link to her channel down below. I gotta rep the other bookish community members on YouTube. So there is that level of respect put into it, even though she is not a queer man, she is a member of the queer community, and that sort of love comes through with it. But in general, now that I have gone on for way too long probably, I love this book. It's a great read for Pride and any other month. If you love adorable romances, definitely give this one a read. I have had my faith in MM romances written by women slightly restored. I mean, I'm still hesitant, but it can be done very well. So, if you enjoy indie reviews, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. If you are an indie author and you would like me to take a look at your book, please email me. I will have my email address down in the description below. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a very gay tomorrow.